Hello, and welcome to Cursed Creativity. My name is Helios, or Elias. This is my first long-form video, and I'm really excited, nervous, and very, very unorganized. This is my second time recording this, because my first attempt was very rambly and hard to follow, so I'm trying again. Today I want to talk to you about Alice in Wonderland, and the concept of madness. So, I'm not a mental health expert, so I won't be digging deep into that aspect. I'm sort of looking at it like a metaphor for weird and neurodivergent kids. These stories have stuck in my head like glue, despite that I never really rewatched the original movie until now. I watched the live action a decent amount growing up, but I never really thought much about it. In this day and age, I feel like everyone's going a bit mad, so I think now is the perfect time to talk about this. So, this video will basically be a small discussion, a movie synopsis, an analysis of madness in the movies, and an autistic ramble about a music video. The media I'll be covering today will be Alice in Wonderland, the original cartoon from 1951, Alice in Wonderland, the live action from 2010, and the YouTube video I Only Paint in Red Now by Lydia the Bard and Lazy Yule. So, madness is described in the dictionary as extremely foolish, irrational, or reckless behavior, or the state of having serious mental health condition, not in technical use. Well, I guess I've been mad a bit. Anyways, each character in Alice in Wonderland encompasses a different type of madness. A few of theirs are slightly different in the live action to the cartoon, which I will get to later. The examples I'll be using will be Alice, the Mad Hatter, the Cheshire Cat, the Queen of Hearts, and Absalom. I'll be briefly mentioning the characters added in the live-action movie too, because they're all a bit mad too, namely the White Queen and Stain. I'll summarize and briefly compare each movie, I'll discuss what each type of madness sort of means to me, and I'll grasp at straws to make a moral or message for a few of them. I'll go into a bit more depth about Alice and the Hatter than anyone else. I'll mention a few lines from the live action, specifically the lines about muchness and Six Impossible Things, because I feel like there's discussion to be had about those. And after all that, I will talk about the music video. So I hope this goes okay, I hope you enjoy, and I hope you don't call me too sappy. The original movie summary goes as follows. When Alice, a restless young British girl, falls down a rabbit hole, she enters a magical world. There she encounters an odd assortment of characters, including the grinning Cheshire Cat and the goofy Mad Hatter. When Alice ends up in the court of the tyrannical Queen of Hearts, she must stay on the ruler's good side or risk losing her head. And the live-action summary goes as follows. A young girl, when she first visited magical Wonderland, Alice Kingsley, is now a teenager with no memory of the place except in her dreams. Her life takes a turn for the unexpected when at a garden party for her fiancé and herself, she spots a certain white rabbit and tumbles down a hole after him. Reunited with her friends, the Mad Hatter, the Cheshire Cat, and others, Alice learns that it is her destiny to end the Red Queen's reign of terror. So, the live-action movie isn't so much a remake as a continuation and a retcon. So, basically the story goes like this. A young, curious British girl falls down a rabbit hole into a world she could only have dreamed. She follows through this fantasy until she wakes up back home. Believing it was a dream, she keeps living her life with the memories of the magical world fading into that of a dream, until one day she's confronted by reality and thrust back into this fantasy world. I just noticed that the live-action queen is called the Red Queen instead of the Queen of Hearts, and I have to assume that was done for the inclusion of the White Queen. Also, really, really quickly, the cartoon is an hour and 21 minutes long, whereas the live action is an hour and 52 minutes long. And that extra half hour feels like a lot more, and I think the reason for that is the cartoon is much slower paced than the live action. It just feels like more happens in the live action to me, I don't know. So, I believe each character's type of madness can be boiled down to one word each. For Alice, we have wonder. For the Hatter, insanity. For the Cheshire Cat, aloofness. The Queen gets vanity, and Absalom has confusion. And I think each one of them can be turned into some kind of moral. I may be grasping at straws a little, but what's the harm in trying to make an encouraging message out of kids' movies? Anyways, let's get into it. Wonder is a feeling of surprise mingled with admiration caused by something beautiful, unexpected, unfamiliar, or inexplicable, or to be curious to know something. For my cartoon example, Alice follows a rabbit in a coat down a hole into a fantasy world she barely even questions due to her determination to find the rabbit. She's surrounded by things to marvel at and be amazed by, but she barely does so because she's already fascinated by this rabbit and dead set on following him until she catches up. And once she does, she's now able to focus more on the insane world going on around her. And for my live action example, I actually struggled a bit to find examples of Alice still having her sense of wonder as an adult, at least to the strength she had it as a kid. The closest example I can think of, she still leans more towards determination, specifically in reference to the 6 impossible things her dad told her about, which we will speak more on later. I think the reason for this is how convinced Alice is that everything is a dream. She's still curious, but has much less admiration for what she sees. When the Hatter states that Alice has lost her muchness, I understand what he means. Insanity is extreme foolishness or irrationality, or an inability to behave in ways considered to be normal and rational, especially on account of serious mental illness, not in current technical use. In the cartoon, the Hatter plays a much smaller role than in the live action, so he constantly contradicts himself moments after he speaks, acting hostile for a very short moment before instantly becoming loving and welcoming. He bites a plate, he uses 4 teacups at a time. There's not much I can say about the Hatter in this scene that wouldn't basically just be listing the silly things he does, like the clean cup move down bit. In the live action, when he's in the Red Queen's custody, the Hatter says it feels nice to be making hats again, before realizing who he's making them for and wondering what's wrong with him as he starts to throw things around and panic angrily. Alice is able to ground him, and he asks the same question he asked in the cartoon. Have you any idea why a raven is like a writing desk? Before quickly saying he's scared, and he doesn't like it there, asking if he's gone mad. His sillier and more foolish behavior can be seen clearly in the Tea Party scene, but I thought it was important to mention his irrationality in this scene, and his lack of grip on reality. Aloofness is the quality or state of being physically, emotionally, or socially distant, detached, or uninvolved. In the cartoon, the Cheshire Cat, from the moment he shows up, sings songs in a very floaty way. He disregards Alice's words, cutting her off and trying to leave when his song gets cut off. But he stops to tell her which way the rabbit went, and when she tries to confirm, he acts like he has no clue what she's talking about for a moment before, once again, giving her advice on where to go. The entire time, he gives off a very lazy and detached energy, seemingly lost in his own head, or even just messing with Alice. In the live action, the cat approaches Alice in the woods, seeing the scratches on her arm from the Bandersnatch. He says he'll, quote-unquote, purify it, which I think he means lick her arm. I think he means he wants to lick her arm. And when she refused, he sighed and continued floating. When he asks for Alice's name, and she says she doesn't know if she's the Alice, to which the cat just says he never gets involved in politics. He calmly says he'll take Alice to the Hare and the Hatter, but that's all. I love that his face appears in the moon, by the way, and I love his obsession with the Hatter's hat. For no reason. I just love it. Vanity is an excessive pride or admiration in one's own appearance or achievements. In the cartoon, the Queen of Hearts instantly orders Alice to always say, "Yes, Your Majesty." She rejects any way of doing things that aren't her way. She takes pride in making Alice curtsy as a show of respect. She cuts her off if she's uninterested in her words. She has no remorse in using creatures for her games and sees no value in any life that isn't her own, as shown by how willing she is to execute anyone. And she makes extra sure everyone is clapping for her, and she cheats to make sure she wins. In the live action, I will say it's kind of cool, just a little side note, I will say it's a little cool that the Red Queen does place value in lives of people with genetic mutations, since she was belittled for hers, and I will also say that it is a little fucked up that the people around her pretend to have exaggerated features. We were told that the queen killed the king out of fear of him leaving her, and after he's gone, she develops an emotional attachment to Stain, who she expects to follow her unquestioned and be infatuated with her. When things don't go her way, she opts for bloodshed, not really caring who dies, just as long as it's the people she doesn't like. Such as when she releases the dodo bird at the Hatter's execution. We're told that the Red Queen was not the rightful ruler, but believes she is because she's the oldest. And confusion is a lack of understanding, uncertainty, or the state of being bewildered or unclear in one's mind about something. I don't think Absalom is confused, I think he confuses others. Let me just clarify that really quick. In the cartoon, Absalom makes every sentence either a question or a condescension. He constantly asks Alice who she is, and gets agitated when she can't answer. And he waits for her to be far away before calling her back just to ask what her problem is. And if he gets upset at Alice for not being able to infer the answers to his he gets upset at Alice for not being able to infer the questions to his answers. I think he plays more into the confusion in the live action, given that, like all the rest, he has a much smaller role in the cartoon than in the live action. In the live action, when he first sees her, Absalom tells Alice, "You are not hardly Alice," which he later changes to, "I said you were not hardly Alice, but you're much more her now. In fact, you're almost Alice." In the beginning, he confuses her by telling her she isn't who she thinks she is, or in his mind, tells her she isn't who she was. And over time, as her mind opens up and she stops thinking that this is as much of a dream, and starts following the prophecy, he watches as she becomes almost who she was before. When Alice mentions that it's a dream again, Absalom just laughs and blows smoke at her. I think he uses his smoke as a way of avoiding questions. I believe that each of these traits can be turned into a message, some of which have truly stuck with me without ever even thinking about it. I believe that Alice's sense of wonder is very childlike in the beginning, fascinated by everything, amazed by the unusual, but as she grows, that wonder turns into denial, an urge to excuse everything with logic, even if the only logic that could work would be a dream. She locks onto the idea like a lifeline. She grew up around people who discouraged her wonder and curiosity, so they started to fade. This is similar to what happens to a lot of kids, neurodivergent or not. Kids with big personalities often learn to tone themselves down to fit in better to the world around them, heavily masking their more unique traits and behaviors to avoid belittlement or bullying. I myself have experienced this until about high school. I would try to tone myself back, but when I got older, I decided how important self-expression is to me, and I stopped trying to hide myself. The Hatter in the cartoon is objectively a much sillier character than the live-action one. In the live-action movie, he shows different traits. There are moments where he takes on a dark tone and drops the silliness entirely. There are moments where he feels panicked and afraid, questioning his own sanity, but all throughout he stays himself. He has moments where his persona slips, but overall it's glued in place. And I think that the Hatter's insanity is meant to symbolize an obliviousness or refusal to conform to the standards set around you. The obliviousness would symbolize a younger child who doesn't realize their behavior isn't considered normal, and the refusal seems to be more of a teenage or young adult thing out of spite of society. A lot of teenagers and young adults, including myself, will actively refuse to follow society's standards because of how their environment reacted to their uniqueness as a child. So basically, I feel like the Hatter represents the spite of alternative teenagers. I feel like the Queen's vanity is meant to be a cautionary tale. A reminder that loving yourself shouldn't mean you feel like you're better than everyone else, because in reality you should love yourself. You should put yourself first. but if you put yourself on a pedestal, you may begin disregarding those around you. That's about all I have to say on those morals as of now. Obviously, I'm grasping at straws a little and being a little silly, but if that's what I gotta do to get a good, deep-ish takeaway from a kid's movie, then so be it. The live-action movie adds a good few new characters who did not exist in the cartoon. These characters are the White Queen, Stain, the Jabberwocky, and the Bandersnatch. I don't think I'm forgetting anyone, maybe Alice's dad, but I could be wrong. I will say, the White Queen is a bit mad herself. Her unique madness feels very whimsical, and that's just the first word I think of. She's definitely odd, and I love her. Stain is a piece of shit. He's a yes-man to the Queen, he pretends to be in love with her, and he tries to kill her when he's sentenced to spend eternity exiled with her. That's all I have to say, he's a douche canoe. The Jabberwocky is the Red Queen's dragon, her champion, who I don't have much to say about. He looks cool, he dies, and that's about it. He does do a great job of haunting the narrative, though, I will say that. And last, but certainly not least, the Bandersnatch. I love this beast. He's so cute and soft-looking, and he's gentle with Alice, and he didn't mean to hurt anyone. He was just following orders, and I swear to God, if I were in this world, I would kidnap him and make him my best friend. I don't care if he hurts me. That's my bestie. You can't have him. The live-action movie is very different from the cartoon, adding multiple plot points that it sort of acts like we're always there. These come in the form of the Frabjous the Jabberwocky, the Vorpal Sword, and basically everything listed in the Oraculum, which I think is how you say it, which is the scroll, the prophecy, which in itself is a plot point added for the live action. I do believe that the live action is objectively a better movie, but in all defense of the cartoon, it was made 60 years before the live action. That's a lot of time, and for a movie that came out 75 years ago, it's a damn good movie. And the story it tells is powerful, and I have no doubt that it will continue to be remade and revised by different people for a very, very long time. It's a classic for a reason, after all. The live-action movie also brings up two conversations that I'd like to touch on. When the Hatter tells Alice that she's lost her muchness, that she used to be much muchier, he's telling her that her wonder has dwindled, and she's much more contained and quote-unquote sane, as Alice grew up surrounded by strict norms. She eventually learned to conform, at least enough, and that shows when she gets back to Wonderland. As I mentioned earlier, she looks at Wonderland now from the perspective that it's impossible, that it must be a dream. That's the only logical explanation, after all. The only way she could explain any of this to anyone back home. The only way she wouldn't be called crazy or belittled for her big imagination. Because of this, she approaches her time in Wonderland with the same level of seriousness she approaches her normal life. Which still isn't too serious, but is definitely more than it would have been. The other conversation is the 6 impossible things. When Alice was younger, her father would tell her that he would believe as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. He would make himself believe that anything is possible, and he would work to will it into fruition. This feels very powerful to me. In a nutshell, just saying nothing's impossible if you put your mind to it, and making a practice of believing that you can do anything, which, as the Hatter says, that's an excellent practice. And finally, my favorite part, now I get to talk about I Only Pay in Red Now. This section will probably be a little less structured, but it is what it is. So, there's a creator named Lydia the Bard who makes stunning music, and she does a line where she writes villain songs for Disney princesses, and gets people to animate the music videos. The one we will be discussing is Alice's villain song, I Only Pay in Red Now, animated by Lazy Yule, who, side tangent, is absolutely my favorite animator, and I take a lot of inspiration from both of these creators. So, Lydia put a description under the video explaining her interpretation of the story, and I'm gonna read that for you now. There once lived a young girl named Alice, who found herself in a strange and mysterious place called Wonderland. The world she had entered was dark and beautiful, full of magic and mystery. At first, she was mesmerized by what she saw, but there was a darkness in the air, a quiet chaos in the very ground, almost as if the land was living, breathing. Alice's wonder slowly turned to a growing unease. She began to find herself doing and saying things that the past Alice wouldn't have dreamed of, as whispers in her ear tempted her towards a new version of herself, scrambling her thoughts. It was almost as if Wonderland itself was infecting her with its madness. One moment, she was the curious and polite girl from her village, and the next, she was a twisted reflection of herself. Her laughter became a cackle, her smile a smirk, and her once bright eyes glinted with a sinister light. Desperate to get back home and return to her normal self, Alice frantically searched for a way out, but each step forward seemed to pull her deeper into the clutches of Wonderland's madness. In the depths of the woods, she met the caterpillar, who eyed her with a knowing look. "Who are you?" he asked. I don't know anymore," Alice replied, her voice a mixture of confusion and despair. "I need to find my way home." Alice's desperation grew as she felt herself almost split in two, watching this darker version of herself slowly take over. If she could just find her way home before the Wonderland version of herself took full control, then the nightmare would finally be over. But Alice couldn't have possibly known just how deep Wonderland's roots were inside her. Sure, she could leave Wonderland, but Wonderland was never truly going to leave her ever again. The music video shows Alice running from the Wonderland version of herself as she hunts and follows with ease, eventually catching up to Alice and fully taking over. First of all, the music video and the song are both fucking incredible. Both of these people are extraordinarily talented, and you should definitely go watch this video and stream the song and just support these creators. Not sponsored or anything, they both just deserve all the love. I Only Paint in Red Now is a faster song, and quick side note, I take a lot of pride in my ability to sing fast songs, and I am proud to have memorized this one. One time, me and my sister were singing it in the car, and there's a part at the end where a verse plays with the chorus in the background, and completely on accident, I sang the verse, she sang the chorus, and somehow we didn't fuck up. And I'm so proud of us for that one. I don't have a whole lot to say on the music video, but I wanted to include it because I really fucking love it, and it's really, really well made, and given that this video is about madness, and the music video is about Alice going mad, it felt right to include. I believe that madness is a metaphor for anyone who doesn't or is unable to fit into what's perceived as normal. It's said in the movie that all the best people are mad, and if we think of madness as people who express themselves, aren't afraid to be themselves, fight for their identity, and don't try to fit into social norms, then I fully agree. I'm a firm believer in self-expression, and I think it's incredibly important. You only get one life, so why not live it to the fullest? Why be afraid to express yourself, no matter how loud and bright? As long as you aren't hurting anyone or yourself, you shouldn't be afraid to show the more fun and unique weird parts of yourself. Because that's you. And if you're mad for it, so be it. Being mad and being weird don't have to be bad things. Being unique shouldn't be shameful, and you shouldn't have to fit yourself into a box. Because all the best people are mad. I've been Helios. Never give a paintbrush to a menace, you'll regret it, and have a lovely day. In the cartoon, Absalom makes every sentence either a question or a condensation. Condensation. No, that's not right. Whose side tangent is absolutely my favorite animer, and fuck. Wow.
You good?
Yeah.